hi everybody. Thanks for inviting me to be on this session. I've been listening to RATPAC presentations here and there as time has permitted. And Michelle, I learned about this, I think, through Michelle Thompson, and I just really am glad to have been invited. So this evening, we'll be talking about is accessibility in the amateur radio service. And I'm talking about accessibility. I'm talking about, the ways in which we do or we do not, design and build things, to be inclusive of everybody, including disabled people. So, introduction, disabled people enjoy ham radio just like everyone else. And, there's a lot of military veterans and seniors and a smaller group, but younger people, like me, who are hams, and we have just different kinds of disabilities, obvious ones like blindness, deafness, or, people with physical disabilities. But then also there can be other disabilities, sometimes referred to as invisible disabilities, autism, ADHD, cognitive disabilities. A lot of people with cognitive disabilities, right, are actually able to be hams. They're actually smart enough to be hams. They just have, they're neurodiverse, and their brains just work differently than the rest of us. So, so then, this is, part of this presentation is not to inform, but to, let everybody know, right? The mission, should you accept it, is that, we find more ways to include disabled people in the amateur radio community. And next one. And then, so this is, who's impacted, right? Who are these people? So 27% of us here in America have disabilities of some kind, be it visible or invisible. And that's, seems like a small number in percentages, but that's, that's millions and millions and millions of Americans. And when you look at the worldwide number, it's only 16%, which seems small, except that that's about 1 billion people. So, that's the size of maybe like India or something like that, population of India. And so, unfortunately, I tried to get some demographics on amateur radio, and there's not a lot out there. The league has some, and I think IARU has some, but I think it's an area we might want to consider, doing some research to have a better understanding of. But what I'm able to find is that as of 2015 or 2016, apologies, 3 million amateur radio operators worldwide. And if you think about 16%, having disabilities, about 480,000. So almost 500,000 hams, have some kind of disability that we might want to be thinking about. So seniors and veterans would be comprising, of course, the vast majority, especially in the ham community, of have disabilities. They also have the highest incidence of disability. And I'm not going to really see as I'm presenting if you raise your hand. Sometimes I get the alerts and sometimes you don't. So feel free to unmute and jump in if you have any questions, or we can answer questions at the end as well. It's up to how you guys.
We'll monitor that for you and let you know.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, here we go. So, why, right? Why are people impacted? And so, there's a lot of commercial equipment out there now. It's really nice to have a Yaesu FTD 1000 MP or whatever, that's got all those touchscreen displays and all that stuff. But really, a lot of hams, that's hitting a really frankly a small part of the ham demographic, right? I mean, maybe if you're a contester, right? So you're middle-aged, you're a contester, or you want to do a de-expedition where you've gotten, plenty of funding or something like that, then that's great. You can get the radio with the touch screen and all the things on it, right? But let's think about what we really need and what we really want for seniors and for disabled people, or really a lot of the probably a large portion of the ham population. We probably don't want such complexity all the time. So we have more and more seniors. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're
Oh,
okay.
I thought somebody said something. I'm sorry. Okay, so more and more seniors, they have to move into assisted living homes. Can't take care of themselves completely, and they have to move in nursing homes, so they can't have ham gear, or maybe they can have their HT, and that's maybe about it. So amateur radio hardware and software products and program services and websites are not designed to be accessible, so they exclude people like blind people, deaf people, and others with cognitive and physical disabilities. Podcasts, videos, and other kinds of media, don't have captioning or transcripts, so a lot of people are excluded there as well. And we have virtual conferences, events that are all held on platforms that do not include accessibility. Zoom here is great, right? If you need captioning, you can turn that on. If you use your keyboard and don't use a pointing device, you can use tab and shift tab. Good accessibility, controls exposed to screen readers, but some of the virtual events that were started, kind of during the pandemic and things like that, have had little to no accessibility. Conventions, ham fests, and other kinds of in-person activities are held at facilities that don't have physical accessibility. Some of them don't really have good wheelchair accessibility. Even they're older venues or something like that, where to the point where in QST, right, you have to look and see if there's an H for quote handicap quote accessibility, which is a different uh, bag of cats that I will not get into tonight. Uh, so how, right? So we know we know what, so how, so I'm going to tell some stories. How are they impacted? Telling the stories of disabled hams. So one thing is, I overheard a conversation on one of the local repeaters, a couple of older guys talking, and one of them was saying, my sight isn't what it used to be, and I don't drive anymore, and I can't see, and I'm thinking about giving up. I can't even really see my radio, and maybe he was also saying that he's having some difficulties physically, and just not able to do his antenna work anymore and things like that, and was feeling pretty discouraged about things just not really being made to work for them. And Dennis was saying that he needed to move into an assisted living home because he really couldn't care for himself anymore, but he wasn't doing it anyway because he wouldn't be able to have his radio gear. I hear from blind hams all the time, which is obvious, right? That they can't do this or that thing because the hardware software website's not accessible. And some accessibility is available, in only the most expensive radios on the market. I heard from a guy named John who told me that he tried to work with a major ham organization to make their publications available in accessible formats, and they said, well, maybe they could create summaries of articles instead of full articles. And my question about that was, well, I guess that means everybody only really needs summaries, right? Maybe we need to rethink what we're putting in our publications. After all, if disabled people don't need it, then anybody else doesn't either, right? Supposedly. So, I know someone also who couldn't figure out, last year, couldn't really figure out where their nearest field day sites were because the map that's used on the field day locator has a lot of accessibility problems. And, I'd love to use popular projects like WSJT-X or WSPR or some of those projects but they also involve a lot of using a lot of maps and things that actually could be, both usable for sighted and, disabled people, but better not. There's a lot of people out there who think that, maybe if you're a ham, you might be looking at some kind of neurodiversity already potentially. Anyway, uh, so what can we do, right? That was just a whole bunch of stuff that maybe kind of sounds bleak and depressing, but it doesn't have to be. There are choices. So, we there are best practices out there that we can follow, and things like the web content accessibility guidelines. If that feels and seems very technical and very overwhelming, that's no problem. There are literally thousands of resources. All you gotta do is Google, well, that is an issue, right? I mean, I tell you, one of the clubs that I go to, the first time I went to their meeting was a yeah, but it was at a church, and it was inside a room at in a hall in a church, and I had to walk around, and at one point I had to kind of go into a bunch of rooms and say, hello, is anybody here? Is anybody? It took me about 10 minutes to actually find the room where the radio club meeting was, after getting out of my Uber. So yeah. So, there are standards and guidelines here that we can all learn to follow as we build and design and do things in the, and if you're creating a, yeah, same here. Thank you. That I was on the repeater, say, hey, where is everybody? Nobody. Anyway, so, if you're building something on Windows, you're building something on Mac, right? There are lots and lots of resources out there for how to build the user interface in a way that's accessible, not only for blind people like me, but really, again, for physical disabilities, people use the keyboards, right? Just make sure that you can tab and shift tab through things, and it makes sense when you do. Um, Consider accessibility, and functional performance criteria for hardware, and just really, again, just think about, you know think when when you're building and making things, just think maybe a little bit beyond the obvious, essentially, is what we're saying here. Use only virtual conferencing platforms like Zoom, right? Or Google Meet, or to some extent Teams, something that's designed to be accessible. And same with conventions, Hamfest, and other events. Make sure the venue is actually accessible, and ask them about their ADA compliance. Everything is now pretty much supposed to be, but in the US at least, but it's not. So, and ultimately, ask disabled hams what they need, and include their feedback in your projects. So that's what we can do. And
also consider color.
yeah, color contrast. Yeah, that's part of that web content accessibility. Yep. Thank you. Get user input. Yeah. Yep. Color contrast. Just think about, think about the idea, because what I've noticed, I think, in the ham community, and I understand this to a point, right? We all only have so many resources and so much that we can do, right? So I'm sure, for instance, the guys who put together WSJT-X, right? They're like, well, this is what we know, and we know how to use it. So, everybody else should be able to use it that way too, right? So I do think, one of the things that I think maybe makes people a little scared potentially, or uncomfortable, is that I am saying that, yes, over time, in order to do this, we're going to have to switch gears just a little bit from a scenario where we just throw something together and stick it out there and see who grabs it and likes it, to having, maybe it doesn't have to be insane. I'm not talking about becoming a huge corporation like Salesforce or something where I work, but just a little bit of governance, right? Just a little bit of governance and just to make sure that we're doing things in a way that is nice to everybody and inclusive to everybody. So why should we care? Why do we do this? So because anybody can be disabled at any time. You can have a car accident and lose the use of your arms, right? Or your legs. You could lose your eyesight. You can lose your hearing. You can get a virus, like Zika or something like that a few years ago and have some cognitive challenges. You can get, some cancers cause disabilities, dementia, when we all get older, a little older, memory isn't quite what it used to be. That's a disability and we should do our best to include you, you know what I mean, in things, even if that's happening. So, and because really accessibility is the right thing to do. If I come to you and ask you to take a look at the way you've designed to build something, right? I'm asking you, I'm telling you that I feel like I don't quite belong, and I'm asking you for belonging, and it's really a test of your, really, I know there's a lot of conservatism in this hobby, and so I'm kind of appealing. It's the right thing to do. It's ethical. It's moral. If you do it, you're a good person, and so because accessibility is in line with the Radio Amateurs Code, right? So, we can look at the Radio Amateurs Code and we see a lot of things about public service, goodwill, the mentorship, right? Elmering and mentorship and all that stuff. A lot of that stuff applies to being accessible to and inclusive of disabled hands. So, and because there are, I do see this as becoming more of a thing, especially if we don't find some other way to address them. I see this becoming more of a regulatory issue. I can think of several ways right now that I've considered petitioning the FCC about regulating what kind of gear. It's not homebrew gear necessarily, but commercial gear is allowed on our bands, and making sure that it meets Section 508 requirements. Because keep in mind, this is regulated by a government agency, and so if some of us press, we probably can get some wins. And when I think I just missed something. I apologize. Speak up if you want to.
Go on. You're fine.
Yeah, I'm listening to I'm sorry. I was pausing to listen to that chat message. I have to listen to it if I'm moving through my notes. I can't also hear the chat. Okay, so yeah, that's right. I mean, it's kind of like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy for anyone who knows about that, right? Yep. So it's a matter of remember when the no, it's okay to do it. I'm just going to pause to make sure I hear everybody. When the aliens are coming, right? They're getting ready to blow away the Earth so they can make room for their hyperspace, highway. They're like, oh gosh, they're like, thank you. Yeah. So the thing is, we're getting, so the thing is, it's like those aliens, right? They said, the president's like, well, gosh, we had no way of knowing. And he's like, yeah, but the notice has been posted for 50,000 years at Alpha Centauri. So the ADA's been there for a quarter century, or actually more than a quarter century. All right. So yeah, so that's just few examples of why we should care. And finally, there's some shining examples I want to talk about. It's not all gloom and doom. It's also positive, right? So, Kenwood includes a lot of out-of-box accessibility with their, newer handheld rigs like the THD 74, and now the THD 75 is awesome. I got my 74 as a kind of victory when I got my big boy engineering position, but it's it pales. Its accessibility pales in comparison to 75. And I wish I had one, but I don't need it. I just want it. Anyway, so Kenwood, and then you can get a speech board for a lot of their rigs, like the 590 I have sitting over here, or some of them even have it built in. The TS 890 and 990 do that. So Kenwood, props to Kenwood. N3FJP, Scott. Yes. And yes, and thank you for that reminder. I'll circle around to that. That's a great organization. So yeah, N3FGP has taken a lot of steps to make sure his software works for blind hams and disabled hams. And the CTR2 voice micro with by Linovation, it's a new thing that's being available to provide some output and some control of different amateur radio gear. There's Win for ICOM and Win for Yaesu. Yep. All right. So finally, we have resources. So we have a lot of resources. I would be happy to send this to the group when after this is over, or discuss any of them. And so yeah, we have resources, anything from the web content accessibility guidelines, essentially notes on the things that I've mentioned here, right? So link to the disability demographics statistics, the league fact sheet, WCAG, Microsoft's accessibility, Apple's accessibility, and Android's accessibility, right? So if you're building an app or a program, you should know right where to go to get help. Section 508, federal law, and the CTR2 micro, just a lot of different resources there. And that's just a small sampling of what is available. And finally, yes, I do want to circle back to the Handy Ham organization. So first of all, there's something to say about it, but first of all, yes, Handy Ham is a great organization. They're small. They're a membership-driven organization, but they do a lot of great things, right? They offer some classes. They try to provide the information in a more accessible format. They try to, the classes are offered at a much more relaxed, slower pace than a lot of options out there to allow people to learn the information and get there, actually be able to take and pass their exams. There's some equipment donation involved. There's a lot of great things about Handy Ham. So what I'm going to say is not on Handy Ham at all. But what I am going to say is that other projects, ham radio projects and organizations out in the world, the League, for one, I think what happens is instead of making their own products and programs and services accessible, they're like, well, you can just get help from Handy Hams. And keep in mind, Handy Ham is a small, tiny organization, right? I mean, there's two women who basically run the daily operations of Handy Ham in Minnesota. That's it. The League has over 100 staff. There's no reason why they should do that. They should be foisting almost 100% of the lift to this tiny organization that does a lot. So nothing, no dissing Handy Ham here, but Handy Ham needs to not be the only amateur radio organization that's lifting here. We all, to the extent we all make things, promote things, do things, we make them, promote them, and do them in more inclusive ways. And I think that's really, really what I'm talking about here. I'm going to just take a break here to ask, does anybody have any questions, comments, anything so far?
Well, Barry, how are we doing in chat? Darrell's doing a pretty good job here, but what do you see there?
Doing a great job. We've covered just about everything mentioned in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, I did my best to listen to everything and take pauses so I could do that.
Multitasking is great.
Yeah, I'm actually so I'm an accessibility support engineer, so I'm part of the support team at Salesforce, and I'm part of the effort to improve the accessibility of our platform. So, I've got was on there as a certified web accessibility specialist. So been doing this for a little bit.
Okay, Victor, you want to come on? You got your hand up.
Awesome.
Thank you very much and good evening. I want to go back to that bit you were talking about earlier on inclusion. And for me, inclusion is not just those of us with disabilities, but for everyone in general. When I was now, when I was in grade school, that was a couple of days ago, I guess.
Yeah.
There's one family. They had a daughter in my class, an older son who went to Notre Dame, played football, and wound up playing for the Kansas City Chiefs. He wrote a book, and he was talking about how their family always thought they were the outsiders.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to be really funny because it didn't matter that they were on the parish council, that they were community leaders in other ways. We thought we were the outsiders. And it's the idea that everybody in the parish thought everybody else was in, they were excluded. So I think it's important here, whether it's just the guy sitting next to you at a meeting or in church or at breakfast, disabled or not,
Yep.
make sure that they find that you're a friend and not just a guy sitting across the room. And that's it for me. When I walk into a ham radio, my first ham radio meeting, it didn't look like everybody was friends, but there was still a lack of cohesion for guys that have been members for 10 or 20 years.
I found that to be
come
true.
across. So thank you.
Yeah, I found it to be very true. I really appreciate your point. When I moved from Tempe to Peoria, I found here a couple of years ago, I found that particularly challenging. I went to my first radio club meeting over here, and it's like, well, everybody kind of knew each other, and really I have to say I've been still kind of struggle with that a little bit. But imagine you guys, imagine what we would have done, right? So now we struggle with homeowners associations, right? They don't want us to put up our antennas, right? Imagine what would have happened if when commercial rigs really started coming out, especially in the 50s and 60s, right? What if we had also at that time made a huge effort to include more women in our hobby, right? What if making antennas had become their craft projects, and instead of eyesore beam antennas, we had pretty antennas that also happen to be resonant, that homeowners association would be like, not only do we allow you to put up your ham antennas, but we want you here. They're pretty. People put them up and they're awesome, and they're decorations. We could have done so many things differently, and I imagine how things could have been different rather than just kind of sticking to the hardcore technical. You've got to be 20 word a minute Morse code. You got to be able to do calculus on a slide rule. We don't need all that. So anyway, more thoughts there. I think W7ALX.
Yep, you got his hand up.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir. W7ALX, you're on. Mitchell?
Oh, Mitchell says, my screen reader says Michael, but Mitchell, hey there.
Hello. Well, I just lowered his hand myself. I thought he was
Okay.
He just dropped out.
Gotcha. Well, okay. Yeah. All right. Well, anybody else? Oh, hi, Everett. KY7MMZ.
No, okay, that's me again. That's Victor. Yeah, to follow up on including women in that antenna building and stuff. I think that would have been critical. You think that by doing that, they would understand how minimal the effects of what's our radiation effect? What do we call that? That
Yep.
we're only transmitting 1 minute out of 20 instead of being
Exactly.
exposed to the radiation full time. So that might have made antennas more acceptable as well. That's a great point. Thank you.
Exactly. I mean, we could have really had a chance to combine a lot of different aspects of people's lives, right? We would have been exposed to more different kinds of ideas, and who knows, right? We could have, these decorative, curtains or sculpture kinds of things that look like sculptures, and they're really highly directional, multi-band, HF beams, 10 element HF beams that don't look like what they look like now. So we could have done some amazing things, and there probably is a quantum universe out there, right, where that's exactly what's going on.
This is
No, it's not. Hi,
W7ALX.
Carolyn. It's not too late. Let's do it.
Okay,
Right.
Michael, did you come on?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I hit the mute button. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, you're just fine.
Yeah. Well, good evening. Thank you for your presentation. I wanted to share. I'm a totally blind director for emergency communications for my city, which is Depot Bay, out here on the Central Oregon coast. And one thing that I want to share with you, I have great support, financial support that supports the program. There's a trailer that's been, it was provided for my use and the team that I lead, and it's fully accessible. It started off with all the radio gear in there have audio output, and just the end of last year, or the previous year, end of 22, I began to move into the making the trailer accessible for all. And so, but the one thing I wanted to share with you, Darrell, I believe it is.
Yeah.
We a lot of times hams that are able to see their HTs, they prefer to program it with a computer.
Yep.
Well, when you become part of my team, I take you out to the field, and now you're going to learn to program a radio in the field on the fly, and we start off easy, and we do it in the day. I introduce them to feeling around, recognizing where things are, and then I call for deployment at night. No light.
Yeah.
And what happens is now there's several of them. They're so good at it. And I do that so that they can understand what we without sight, how we can get around. I've learned to adopt the gear, some of the gear that don't have a voice output. You listen to beats and have to count them, and I'm blessed with a with a memory that I won't forget things. But a lot of it is muscle memory, and I believe everyone can do it. And these gentlemen that serve with me on the team, they've proven that, that they're able to do that. I just wanted to share that with you, and I have one question for you.
Yeah.
You're the person that runs the Skywarn program
No,
out east. Is
no,
that correct?
no, no,
Oh,
I
I'm,
don't, I don't have any, I don't do Skywarn. It's not me.
oh,
Um,
okay. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
no,
I thought it was you.
no, that's really good. I know there's some blind hands that are involved with Skywarn. And yeah, I do occasionally. I've listened to a net. I try, even though even if I don't participate in every aspect of amateur radio, try to at least make sure I'm aware of it and how it works a little bit. So yeah, no,
I'll
not
share
that's
with
not me
you.
though.
Okay, I'll share with you. I have a, retired um, signalman, Navy signalman who uh, set up a APRS. I have talking APRS
Hmm.
and also um, talking radar, weather radar here on my computer.
Yeah.
It hasn't gone out to be presented because I'm still I'm I gotta let me I had to turn off my speech reader.
Yeah.
It's reading the chat.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's not really ready for real time play. So, but it's great. So it's and quite a tractor too. So anyway, thank you for all that you're standing up for people. I'm trying my best to introduce other people within my immediate area to be more little open and know that we are human beings. We can be approached. We're friendly and we won't bite. Anyway,
Most of us.
thanks for the time.
Yes, I do CW. Actually, CW happens to be my favorite operating mode, believe it or not. So it's very weird. I've got these computers and the 590 here, and then I've got a paddle and a straight key over here too, and made 245 QSOs last weekend in the DX contest and worked 65 countries. It was wild and crazy propagation last weekend, wasn't it? Anyway, I think somebody else has their hand up.
Okay, Victor, you got your hand up again.
Yeah, let's go back. Michael, what was the position? Was it Director of Emergency Management there at Depot Bay?
I'm the director for emergency communications specifically for the city of Depot Bay is what I am. And
Emergency
we're
Communications, okay.
yeah, and I'm the we're with ACS and our served agency is the sheriff's department.
I'm very happy to hear that there are disabled hands involved in that side of the amateur radio service and the emergency communications side. That is not me. I mean, I think that I would be a decent op and be able to actually do it, but I haven't focused in that in a while. Used to be involved in races back in the 80s, but not lately.
Something else.
Part of my participation is emergency management, and by luck of the draw, my fire station assignment is the Fire Operations Center. So I'll take my guide dog up there with me, and maybe they'll decide to assign me there, or maybe they'll assign me to a different unit. But that's what I train for at the moment is Fire Operations Center, that communication piece there. So yeah, we're all involved. We've got the energy and the drive to get it done. Thank you and have a great week.
Absolutely. You're welcome.
One more thing, Darrell. No one has mentioned physical accessibility. A lot of people have wheelchairs or walkers. Yep. When there are meeting rooms that are up 4 or 5 steps, even people that have sight problems.
Yep.
There are steps involved. It's a very difficult thing for people to encounter if they're in a wheelchair or have a walker. And that's also part of all of this. We're going to have accessibility. We have to think where our meeting rooms are and where our field day sites are to make them accessible to everybody.
Yeah, kind of like I was mentioning with the conventions and the ham fests and like you said, field day, good point, right? Even just your local radio club meeting, right? All those things need to be, we need to think about where those are held and who can and can't, get access, to those venues. Absolutely. Yeah, so wow, I'm really glad to see the positive response here, and I hope that all of us will take this back, and I am available to chat further, in November Uniform 7 India in qrz.com. My email address is in there. Would everybody like to see a quick demo of
Yes.
a thing? Okay, so now I'm going to do this and I'm going to show you this the way I do it, just so you get an understanding. So I have what I have here is a program called JJ Radio that I use to control my Kenwood TS590 SG. And I can control just about every aspect of the rig. And I'm running a screen reader that's called JAWS, which stands for Job Access with Speech. And I'm just going to give you a quick demo. This is more not so much about hearing every little word as much as it is just kind of getting a feel for what operating can be like for at least in my case, I'm a blind person. So for a blind ham, it's different for somebody who is low vision. It's different for somebody who has physical disabilities and invisible disabilities and so on and so forth. So this would just be an example scenario. So I'm going to turn on my rig and I'm going to share my screen again, but a little differently this time. Let's locate my software here. Oh, now that's interesting. Where is... Oh, I see. What show all the windows. There we go. That's what I want. And then I'm going to share sound.
Stop screen sharing meeting controls. You have started screen share. Press F6
And if I come back and there's more
audio settings
time,
button drop down. Participants can now see your
get a little more specific about what's happening. But I just thought I'd do just a short demo. This is, you're hearing my screen reader, so this is what it's saying to
JJ
me.
Radio. To move to an item, press the arrow keys. JJ Radio. JJ Radio. Use your reading keys to read the text. 0v21.030.000RRXXX.
So yes, I know normally a TS590 would have a built-in, or not a built-in, but would have a VGS1 installed. But shortly after I bought the radio, it had a bad it came with a bad USB port. I sent it off to it had a VGS1 board in it. I sent it off to Kenwood, and I've never seen my VGS1 again. It's gone. Nobody knows anything. Nobody owns anything. So I had to figure out something else, didn't I? So this blind guy, Jim Schaefer, created this awesome little program called JJ Radio a few years ago to control some Kenwood and some ICOM rigs. And so you can hear
0v21.030.000RRXXX. John-W5NWS/AA5I-LA has joined the meeting.
my S meter says 0.
0v21.0.
And I'm using Vox because I'm on break-in, and I have VFOA. My frequency is 21.030.00 or 21.030.00 megahertz, and I have nothing set for RIT or XIT. That's why they say RRRXXX, because all that can be controlled on one line. It's really, really amazing software. So I'm just going to do some really basic things here. So
0v21.030.
I'm just going to
PC cursor. Control F. Frequency.
change the frequency.
14.030. Enter. JJ Radio. JJ Radio. User 4v14.030.000.
And I'm going to
Mode combo box.
tab over
CW.
here,
3 of
make
8.
sure I'm in CW mode.
Tuner combo box. True. 2 of 2.
Tab
Add
over
tune
here,
button to activate. Press space.
tune button, press that.
Tuner
Shift
mode
tab.
comp. JJ Radio. Use your reading keys to read the
Back
text. 4v14.030.000.
And
4v14.
yes, I have a S4 noise level. Again, I live in Peoria with an HOA. So, and I have by the way, I have that total I told you about last weekend in the contest. That's with a little tiny Alpha FMJ vertical antenna sitting on a tripod in my backyard outside. It's only about 8 feet away from the house, and it's right next to a tree, which keeps it nice and stealth and also nicely detunes my antenna to an extent, right? So, but even so, I was able to accomplish
4.14.030.00.
some amazing stuff last weekend. So I'm a 14.030. I've already tuned my rig, right? I pressed the tune button. It's tuned. No issues there. I'm going to ask if the frequency is in use. I have a standard set of bencher paddles over here. You probably can't see them. I could pick up my computer and move them. But if you guys want to see some of that, maybe we'll do some videos or a different kind of presentation. Yep. And then, yeah, or I can call CQ. So see, we have a combination of tech, right, new school, so to speak, and old school. Yeah, let's go ahead and demonstrate that. You guys just heard a bunch of notifications, right? I'm going to show you that. That is also accessible.
JJ Radio.
It is the awesome site.
Screen sharing meeting controls.
Website also known
Contact
as
W.
Reverse Beacon. Let's take a look
Alt S.
and how that works. So we're still going to share sound. Wait, hang on. Let me switch to the correct tab. It'll be just a minute. Where's my Firefox? There it is. Okay, there it is. It's RBN. It's right there. Okay. All right, let's try that again. Then it just wasn't showing up in my. Yep, there it is. Yay. All right.
Top screen sharing meeting controls. You have started screen share. Stop video left parent alt plus V.
Somebody's testing on that frequency in 7 Delta X-ray. So I just moved
Title
off
is
a
screen
little bit.
sharing meeting.
Arrow I'm going to Alt Tab now,
To move to an item, press
which is
the
a
arrow key.
keyboard shortcut. That
Title is RBN dash.
all right. So we have Reverse Beacon, here, and you're seeing it,
PC
and
cursor.
I'm hearing it,
Title is RBN.
and
Virtual PC. Virtual PC. RBN.
they, whether by design or by accident, they use nice tables for this. So I'm going to hit T
Table
a
with-
couple times and go
Table with
down
3
right
columns
down
and 2
here,
rows. Column 1.
and I can see who heard me.
Circle bold circle calcium spotter edit. Stop edit new table circle distant thread mode type SNR speed time scene link K4PP
So we see that K4PP heard me.
link new 7i 1444 me CW
1444 miles away on
C2.
CW, CQ,
8dB 24 WPM
24 words a minute
0249Z
at
22 David
0249
KF7 Dodge
Zulu,
Idaho as 92 seconds ago.
92 seconds ago. So that's just a little teeny
To move to an
tiny
item screen sharing meeting controls. Stop video. Alt S your screen share.
sample of the way I do things. And if you have any questions about that or comments about that, or
We're okay in chat.
I'm surprised. You did a good demo there. No questions? That surprises me.
well, I like to think that maybe people are thinking about it, or maybe it's, I know that the screen reader, I kind of thought about this. I'm like, sometimes I'll do things like, slow the screen reader down and, so that make sure everybody can hear everything. But at least for this little demo, I wanted to kind of show it out in the wild as I actually do it, because it's not right. That's not a tutorial or, teaching or showing somebody how to do it. It's, I just wanted you to actually get a feel for what it was like in the wild, in the real world. So I left it the way I have it set up and the way I use it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, much fun.
I'm sorry. I have a question for NU7I.
Yep.
Yeah. This is Michael again, W7ALX. what's the name of that software, piece of software that you're using to read the screen?
Yeah. JAWS. It's a screen reader. JAWS.
Oh, okay.
JAWS. It's
Yeah.
job access with speech.
Yeah. I use that. I'll share with you the one thing that because I do a lot of field work, hauling a computer that won't work. And that's why I've introduced programming in the field without any light by hand.
Exactly. Yeah.
So a lot of, and I'm of the, everybody knows me as the guy that says you don't have it on your back, you don't have it at home. You
Yeah.
don't have
Yeah.
it at all.
Yeah. No, I
And
gotcha.
yeah, and so I use, I'm an Android user. Even my WinLink goes out via Wode, which is WinLink over Android. And so I just was wondering, because I have yet, I know there are some programs, but I have yet to find a suitable screen reading or platform that I can take into the field. I do use an iPad and I have one of those, but something that's small, light that will go into the backpack. That when we deploy, it take even the MFED antenna that I use was specially designed. Of course, my team helped, but the whole focus was that one guy could do it. And so, and that's to get on the air. You can have that up in the air and have everything set in, coming out of my backpack and ready to send the message that needs to be sent.
Well, I don't know.
10 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you because I mean, a few years ago, I bought my wife this little tiny, cute little computer. It's a full Windows 10 machine. I think it's called I think it's a Samsung Note 9. I'm not referring to the phone, but the laptop,
Right.
the Samsung Note 9 laptop. It's a little, I think of not actually maybe a 10-inch display, but the point is it's teeny, it's tiny, and has low power requirements. You know, and you see like want to have a full computer, but wants things to be, you know, really easy and small. And so I got her that, and I would stick that in a backpack, you know, stick that in there with my iPhone and my radio and my you know, antenna stuff and be able to have a full computer. You probably could plug that into a battery. I will fully admit if the EMP apocalypse comes or the zombie apocalypse comes, I'm not surviving it. I'm totally reliant on the infrastructure unless somebody out there in the emergency services recognizes that I have skills and picks me am skills and picks us up. But otherwise we're not going to make it.
All right. Well, thank you very much for this, and I'd like to thank Dan. Dan, thank you for having this session this evening. I'm going to leave because I need to report. I'm on radio watch at the moment, so
awesome.
Thank you again.
I want to thank everybody again this evening for having me on, and again, you know, look me up and send me email if you have any questions, comments, or want some help working on something to make it more accessible and doing advocacy or whatever is wanted or needed. So thanks everybody again for your time for this hour and 7-3 and
please send your slides to Dan so we can include it in the presentation.
Awesome. Yeah, I will do that. I'll take care of that. I'll send those. And I will send the resources too. I'll send the markdown file as well so that you have that.
Okay, is there anybody else out there?
Everything looks
Yep.
Thank you very much. I don't believe there's any of us, excuse me, who haven't been at some time, aren't now, and anticipate will die before we are. The deprived of something we take for granted. It's humbling to see what's available and what can be done. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I enjoyed it. I'm glad the rest of you did too. So
Are there any more comments before we pull the plug? Nothing in the chat that I see unless you do, Barry.
You're good.
I don't see hands up. So with that, I'm going to say 73s, everyone. It's been a great presentation. Thank you, Darrell. Appreciate it a lot.
you're welcome. 7-3. Never be uniform 7 India. Clear.
See you, 73s, everyone.
Bye.